Hello viewers, thank you for taking the time to watch this video. I wanted to make this video to, I guess, share part of my journey of discovery of this Native American style flute, and also part of my musical background that led me to discovering the Native American style flute. My own musical journey began when I was around the age of 6 or 7 years old. My parents began me taking keyboard lessons, and I took keyboard lessons for approximately a year or so. Then at the age of 7 or 8 years old, I began learning how to play the clarinet. The grade school that I went to introduced my class to various instruments, and through some sort of process of elimination, I was chosen clarinet. So that began my clarinet journey. And then around the age of 8 or 9 or 10, I began playing the drum kit. And I took clarinet and drum kit lessons for about 6 or 7 years. And during that time, I played in grade school, junior high, and high school band, where we played like jazz to big band to swing to Broadway type theme music to classical music compositions as well. And that began my musical interest and my musical, I guess, dare I say, career. From that point, I still had an interest in wanting to expand my musicality beyond American type of music. I wanted to learn music from other parts of the world, and so I began listening to as much world music as I could possibly bring into my own repertoire and my own musical collection. And I began buying different flutes from around the world, from Aztec type flutes to Tibetan type of flutes to Irish flutes and penny whistles and things like that. And it wasn't until I was around the age of 25 or so that I heard my first recordings of Native American flute. There were two sources. One was a radio station that played a couple of songs from our Kalas Nakai, and the second source is sort of a mystery as to how I happened to get a cassette tape of a band called Burning Sky. At the time, the car that I owned had a cassette player in it, and the cassette tape from Burning Sky wasn't one that I knew I ever bought or owned, but somehow it ended up in my cassette player in my car. And when I heard both our Colors Nikai and Burning Sky, I was hooked. The sound of the flute just struck a chord within me, and I felt it have a profound impact or change my spirit or my soul or my psyche in a way that I couldn't quite understand at the time, and couldn't express through words at the time. And it kind of created an inner fire within me of desire to learn more about the Native American flute and where I can get one from. So I began searching music stores where I could find a Native American flute. And I eventually did find one at a music store, a local music store, and this is the first flute that I bought. I'm not sure who the maker of this flute is or was, but originally this flute was only a four-hole flute. I believe I added the bottom hole and the top hole here because at the time I felt like four holes was rather limited. I was used to flutes having six holes or even seven holes, or sometimes eight, a thumb hole in the back and then a pinky finger hole. So I changed the tuning, perhaps not really knowing where to place the finger holes. I just thought, well, I can place one here and place one here. It's not going to make any difference. So I'm not sure if I destroyed or ruined this flute. I don't think I did. It still plays fine. I can demonstrate. It's not in key anymore. I don't know if it was ever in key to begin with, but I've taken it to a tuner, played it to a tuner, and it's definitely not in any particular key. So, and that's okay. So from this one flute, this one Native American flute or Native American style flute, I was hooked. I had to find more Native American flutes or Native American style flutes and add them to my own personal musical instrument collection. And I have a few of my first or other Native American flutes, other Native American flutes or Native American style flutes that I did buy at the time, back 20, 30 years ago. I gifted to other people, so I don't have all of the flutes that I did buy when I first began my journey or search of the Native American flute or the Native American style flute. So during that time of pursuing other flutes or other Native American flutes to buy or to learn more about, my interest in the instrument grew more and more and more and more. And I wanted to learn as much as I can or could about how this instrument was or is made. And it wasn't until about 4 or 5 years ago that I began to find various books and DVDs via the internet on how to make Native American flutes or Native American style flutes. I bought DVDs from Red Feather to other flute makers. I bought books from Charlie Mato Toyella from Blue Bear Flutes and Cherry Cow, I believe is the name of the source for another book that I bought on flute making. Again, Charlie Mato Toyella has a lot of YouTube videos on how to make Native American style flutes or Native American flutes to other areas or topics on Native American flutes. Highly recommend Charlie's videos. So if you're looking for a source, look up Blue Bear Flutes on the internet or even on YouTube, and you can find him there. So I owe a debt of gratitude to those flute makers to help me learn how to make this instrument or this type of instrument. Um, I am not Native American by any known blood or lineage, as far as I know it. I'm just a white guy who was entranced by the sound of this instrument, and as a musician, I truly appreciate the sound of it and what it can do to help change a person's spirit or heal wounds within a person's spirit or soul. I know I suffered a lot of family trauma, and I feel that this instrument helped to heal some of those wounds from my family. And now that I have taken on the role of being a flute maker and also a flute player, I feel that it's a gift that I have to and want to share with people around the world. I'm a Reiki practitioner, and I use a Native American flute or a Native American style flute that I've made specifically for my Reiki practice or for my Reiki sessions. Um, I play it as part of my Reiki energy that I bring to or share with a person. And the feedback that I get from these people is that the sound of the flute helps them emotionally or spiritually or psychically, that it brings them to tears, and it brings me to tears hearing these stories. I get feedback from people that I've sold flutes to from all parts of the world that they tell me that the flute has changed their life as well. And these stories touch me in my heart because I can relate to these stories. There's a connection, a familiarity with each story that I get from these various people because, again, it's a story of familiarity, and I think that builds the bridge of connection or of the power of this instrument and the sound or the sounds that this instrument sends out as a healing gift to the world. And that's, again, another part of my inner fire to make these instruments and sell them and share them with people around the world. And again, I owe a debt of gratitude to all of those that have bought my Native American style flutes, to, again, those that help teach me how to make this instrument. So with that, I say thank you, and thank you for watching and listening. And until next time, peace, be well, and play from the heart.